People all over the world claim to hear ringing in their ears. If you've ever suddenly heard a ringing sound for no apparent reason, with no logical explanation, know that this might be much more than it seems. What if I told you there's a way to find out whether this ringing has a spiritual origin or if it's just a physical symptom? Very few people know this, but there are clear differences between a clinical symptom and a true spiritual sign. Today, you'll learn how to tell them apart, and more. I'll show you a simple method you can try at home to test whether this ringing is a message from the spiritual world. Now, let me ask you, have you ever experienced this? Do you know someone who hears this ringing frequently? Stay with me until the end, because this information might change the way you see this phenomenon. Science calls this phenomenon tinnitus, an internal sound that can appear for various reasons: exposure to loud noises, hearing problems, stress, or even changes in the nervous system. But pay close attention. There's something you need to know right now. A lot of people who experience this ringing go searching for help online and end up finding so-called miracle cures, paid courses, and false promises that claim to provide an instant cure. This is a scam. If someone tries to sell you a secret method to magically get rid of the ringing, run. These people aren't trying to help you. They just want to take your money by preying on your desperation. And that's exactly why I'm here, to show you the truth, to explain what science really says about this phenomenon, and to warn you about what could be behind this mysterious sound. Because here's the real question. What if science can't explain it? Many people report hearing these sounds at very specific moments with no apparent cause, and more than that. They feel like something beyond the physical is happening. For centuries, different cultures and spiritual traditions have claimed that mysterious sounds in the ears could be messages, signals from dimensions that science still can't measure. But what if this ringing is more than just a hearing issue? What if it's a calling, a warning, or even a message from the spiritual world? Well, now that we understand that ringing in the ears can have medical explanations, but also raises questions that science still hasn't answered, we need to take a closer look at how these sounds manifest. Because here's something many people don't realize. Not all ringing is the same. If you've ever experienced this sound in your ear, you've probably noticed that it can vary. Sometimes it's high-pitched, other times it's low. It can be momentary or persistent. It can appear out of nowhere or happen at specific moments. And this variation isn't random. The way the ringing manifests can tell you a lot about what's happening with you. That's exactly why you need to pay attention to the details. Here are the main types of ringing that people commonly report. Experiencing: high-pitched and constant ringing. This is the most common type, a sharp sound, similar to a whistle or a continuous hissing noise. Some people experience it non-stop, while others hear it at specific moments. It may be mild, but over time, it can become annoying. Intermittent ringing. Have you ever heard the ringing for just a few seconds before it suddenly disappeared? This type is particularly interesting because it doesn't last long. It appears out of nowhere and vanishes, like a brief and unexpected event. Low and deep ringing. Unlike high-pitched sounds, this type of ringing has a deeper tone, like a muffled noise or a pressure-like sound inside the ear. Some people describe it as a distant rumble, a vibrating sound, or something similar to a low and constant murmur. 4. Ringing that happens in specific situations. This is an important detail. The moment when the ringing occurs can vary. Some people hear it when they wake up or as they're trying to fall asleep. Others notice it in certain environments. And some even report hearing it when they're next to certain people. Intense hissing, like a pressure cooker. This is one of the most intriguing reports. Some people describe the ringing as a loud hissing noise, similar to the sound of a pressure cooker releasing steam. This noise can be accompanied by a sensation of pressure in the ears, as if something is tightening the area. This specific type of hissing can be quite intense, and depending on the situation, it's hard to ignore. It can appear suddenly, leaving the person confused about where it's coming from. Well, many people go through their entire lives hearing sounds they can't explain, never stopping to question whether there might be a deeper meaning behind them. But the truth is, in many cultures and spiritual traditions, the ears are considered portals of perception, capable of picking up frequencies far beyond normal hearing. Ancient beliefs suggest that certain people have a heightened sensitivity to perceiving signs that most ignore. Among these signs, ringing in the ears has always been seen as something special, a warning or even a calling. In some cases, people who suddenly hear this sound might be picking up on energetic shifts in their environment, spiritual frequency, variations happening around them. In other cases, the ringing appears before significant events, almost as if trying to prepare the person for something that's about to happen. Now, if you doubt this, if you think all of this is just coincidence, it's important to understand something. Not everything can be explained by conventional science alone. Great scholars of spirituality, like Allan Kardec in Spiritism and Father Gabriele Amorth, one of the Vatican's most renowned exorcists, have always warned that certain sensations we feel in our bodies aren't just physical, they can also be spiritual. Mystics, religious figures, and even doctors who specialize in consciousness, studies affirm that human perception isn't limited to what the eyes see or what the ears physically hear. There are frequencies, vibrations, and messages that we often can't immediately decode, but they exist and influence our perception of the world. Imagine someone who is about to make an important decision and out of nowhere feels an intense ringing in their ear. At the time, they might ignore it, but later, they realize that this happened right before a major turning point in their life. There are reports of people who heard a loud ringing before receiving life-changing news, before meeting someone, who would alter their destiny, or even before facing a dangerous situation. Now, this doesn't mean that every case of ringing in the ears has a spiritual explanation, but when it happens repeatedly at crucial moments, it could be a sign that something beyond the physical is at play. That's why it's essential to learn how to distinguish a common symptom from a true sign. Many people ignore this perception, only realizing what was happening when it's too late. Since ancient times, civilizations and spiritual traditions around the world have reported mysterious sounds that precede negative events or spiritual manifestations. In Tibetan tradition, for example, it is believed that certain sounds, inaudible to the human ear, can be picked up by the mind in altered states of consciousness. Buddhist monks speak of inner sounds that can indicate energetic shifts, both positive and negative. In the West, within Christian tradition, there are accounts of saints who heard strange noises before facing great tribulations or receiving spiritual revelations. In Spiritism, Allan Kardec describes in the Spirit's book that human senses can pick up influences from the spiritual world, and that unexplained sounds may be manifestations of spiritual presences trying to interact with the material plane. Now, what few people talk about is that in some situations, this ringing could be a serious warning that your energy is being drained. In Hinduism, for instance, it is believed that vital energy, or prana, can be disturbed by spiritual interferences, and these disturbances may manifest as anomalous sounds in auditory perception. In shamanic traditions, there are records of people hearing hissing or whistling sounds before experiencing spiritual attacks or traumatic events. But what exactly are these frequencies that some people pick up? The word frequency refers to the rate of vibration of sound or energy waves. In spirituality, it is believed that everything in the universe vibrates at a certain frequency. Low frequencies are associated with heavy, dense emotions like fear, anger, and sadness. High frequencies are connected to states of peace, love, and spiritual connection. When a person is spiritually weakened, their energetic frequency tends to drop, making them more vulnerable to external influences. This could explain why many people start experiencing ringing in their ears during stressful moments, periods of anxiety, or after going through emotionally negative experiences. Now, here's something even more specific and concerning. There are clear patterns that indicate this ringing could be a spiritual warning sign. How to identify if your ringing is a negative spiritual warning? It suddenly appears when you're in a heavy environment. In Jewish tradition, it is believed that certain places can be charged with negative energy, and many people report hearing unexplained sounds upon entering locations where tragedies occurred or where there is a presence of tormented spirits. The sound is accompanied by a sense of oppression, heaviness, or the feeling of being watched. This is a sign often reported by mystical Catholic practitioners who believe that spiritual attacks can come with physical signs such as chills, ringing in the ears, and an inexplicable sense of anguish. It frequently happens during the early hours of the morning. Many cultures believe that certain times of the day, such as between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., known as the witching hour in Christianity, are moments when the veil between the spiritual and material worlds is thinner, allowing spiritual presences to manifest more easily. The ringing appears before nightmares, sleep paralysis, or strange experiences. In Sufism, a mystical branch of Islam, there are records of people hearing hissing or whistling sounds right before experiencing spiritual pressure, a sensation of being watched or attacked in their dreams. It gets stronger at night or in complete silence. This is one of the most common reports among people who frequently hear ringing. During the day, the amount of background noise can mask the phenomenon, but at night, when the environment is quiet, the sound becomes more noticeable. Some believe that, at night, the subconscious mind is more open to spiritual messages, meaning the spirit might be picking up on something that the conscious mind ignored during the day. Many people ignore these signs and only realize their seriousness when they start to experience spiritual and emotional suffering, feeling extreme fatigue, constant irritability, and an unexplained sense of exhaustion. I always say that if there's one thing people who suffer from ringing in the ears know, it's that you can't just ignore it. The sound is there, persistent, distracting, interfering with concentration, disrupting sleep, and in many cases, causing distress and anxiety. Most people who experience this have already tried to find help. They've searched online, visited doctors, and tested different techniques to ease the discomfort. But what happens in most cases? Nothing works. Medical tests come back normal. No ear infection, no convincing explanation. And then the question arises, what is really causing this? If this sound persists, appears at specific moments, or intensifies for no apparent reason, it's essential to start looking at it from a different perspective. The big question is, what can you do to ease this discomfort and better understand what's happening? Prayer and spiritual protection. Many people report that the ringing intensifies when they're emotionally distressed, in heavy environments, or at night before sleeping. If this happens frequently, it could be a sign of an energetic interference around you. In many spiritual traditions, it is believed that when our energy is unprotected, we become more vulnerable to external influences. Here are some recommended practices. Prayer before bed. In Christianity, Psalm 91 is known as a powerful spiritual shield. In Spiritism, it is recommended to elevate your thoughts and ask for protection from spiritual guides. If the ringing appears in the silence of the night, praying before bed might help reduce the discomfort. Mantras and positive vibrations. In Hinduism, the Om mantra is considered a sound frequency capable of balancing the body's energy. Some people report that chanting this sound or listening to specific sound frequencies helps relieve the ringing and reduce the anxiety associated with it. Cleansing the environment. If the sound appears or intensifies in a specific place, It might be helpful to try an energy cleansing ritual with white sage, myrrh incense, or Palo Santo, techniques used in many cultures to remove dense energies, techniques to relieve ringing and strengthen spiritual energy. While traditional medicine still struggles to offer a definitive solution for ringing in the ears, some alternative practices might help reduce the discomfort. Using crystals. For energy balance, amethyst and black tourmaline are known for helping balance the mind and creating a spiritual protection barrier. Many people who experience ringing carry these crystals with them or place them under their pillow at night. Healing sounds and vibrational therapy. The use of sound frequencies like 432 Hz and 528 Hz has been studied as a possible way to relieve tinnitus. In some spiritual traditions, it is believed that these sounds help restore the body's energetic balance. What might the ringing be trying to tell you? If the ringing appears without any apparent cause and persists even after medical exams, maybe it's time to start looking for patterns. Here are some questions to help you interpret what's happening. Does the sound appear at specific times of the day or in certain places? Does it happen when you're near certain people or in stressful situations? Do you feel chills, restlessness, or a strange energy along with the ringing? Does it appear before or after intense dreams or sleep paralysis? If there's a pattern, then this ringing might not just be a physical phenomenon, but a sign that you need to pay closer attention to. My dear friends, for some, ringing in the ears is just a physiological phenomenon. For others, it's a persistent annoyance that medicine can't seem to fix. But for those who pay attention to the signs around them, it could be a warning, a calling, or even a message, coming from a level of perception that most people ignore. Throughout history, many people have reported hearing sounds before significant events in their lives. Some heard this noise before receiving important news, others before making a crucial decision. And there are those who experienced a hiss, a whistle, or a ringing sound before going through difficult moments, as if something was trying to warn them. The real question is, are you paying attention to the signs you receive? Many times we become so caught up in the rush of daily life, so distracted by problems and worries, that we fail to notice when the spiritual world, or even our own subconscious, is trying to communicate with us. If the ringing in your ears persists and happens at specific moments, don't ignore it. Observe the patterns. Feel what's happening around you. Work on raising your energy and protecting your spiritual field. If it turns out to be just a physical symptom, the worst that can happen is that you'll become more aware of your body. But if it's something more than that, understanding its meaning could protect you from negative influences, help you make wiser decisions, and even strengthen your connection with something greater. Now tell me in the comments, do you experience ringing in your ears? How often does it happen? If this video helped you, share it with someone who also experiences this phenomenon. They might need this information. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay tuned for more content that will help you understand the mysteries of life and spirituality. A big hug, and may God bless you and your family.